As always, you can have a look at the official docs to learn more about the Ion grid. And actually there you are linked to a complete article about the grid layout where you can learn all the details about it. But there is no need to do that right now. I'll dive deeply into the grid in a separate section later in the course because it's such a complex, not difficult, but feature-rich component, and a component that can be very useful when you're planning to build an app that should run on both mobile devices and on desktop machines as well. We can use the grid here to shrink the size of this card on bigger screen sizes. For that, let's go back to the source code. And in Ion content, around the content where I want to control the size, you can add the Ion grid component. However, you don't just stick your content that should resize in there, because how would Ionic know how to resize it? Instead, a grid consists of rows, so-called Ion row elements here, and each row has one or multiple Ion columns. So rows and columns make up a grid. And now for a column, you can define the size of this column, which of course helps you define the size of the content. Because it's the Ion column that holds the content you want to render. So this Ion card, I'll cut it and move it into this Ion column here. And now on this Ion column, we can use default properties and attributes we can set on this element, which you find in the official docs. For example, we can set a size attribute. We can set this to, let's say, 6. Now, by default, a column is able to have a size of 1 to 12. You could override this, but the default is 1 to 12, which means it either takes 1/12 of the entire width or the total width. And 6 therefore takes half the available width. If I now save this, and I go back to my app and reload, we see that shrank. It's now smaller. It's only half as wide as the screen. But of course, on a smaller device, this looks super ugly now. So how can we get the best of both worlds? Have a full width look on the smaller device and take half the width on a bigger screen? Well, for that, we can actually use specialized forms of these attributes. Instead of setting size equals 6, we can set size MD equal to 6. Now supported is XS, that stands for extra small, SM for small, MD for medium, and LG for large. And this allows you to set the size for different screen sizes. Now the breakpoints for these sizes can be found in the official docs, and you can also override them. And MD should be looking quite good here. So if we now save this, and I reload this on the mobile view, you see we have the full width design back. On bigger screens though, it only takes half the width. Now of course it would be nice to have this centered, and turns out you can do this pretty easy as well. You can add an offset property and set this to 3, because we have 12 columns available. This has a width of 6, so we want to have 3 columns on the left and 3 columns on the right, and this offsets it by 3 columns to the left. And of course I don't want to offset it on all screen sizes, but only on medium screen sizes and higher. That's important when you add size medium or offset medium or any other breakpoint like size SM, offset SM, then this counts for this screen size, so for medium sized screens and bigger screens. So it's always like a minimum condition, you could say. So now with this configuration, size MD equals 6 and offset MD equal 3, if we reload this, it's now nicely centered on bigger screens, and on smaller screens, we still have the full available width. And that is exactly the look I want here. Now, again, the grid has a lot of configuration possibilities, and therefore we'll have an entire module where we spend a lot of time on the grid, and I will not dive super deep into it right now. I just want you, at this point, to understand that we have different categories of components, and that you will have different tools for whether you want to output some content, listen to input, or you want to change the structure or size or order of your elements on the screen. And the grid, as well as a couple of other layout components, can be really helpful with that.